right now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I want to welcome everyone to the Silk Undress Lifestyle of the Lady CEO International Medium Forum. The inaugural COVID-19 series on the impact of social distancing. Our first topic of the series is inequalities and preparedness from a head of state perspective. So just a little bit about myself. My name is Carletha Cole, commonly known as Cece. I'm a serial entrepreneur, licensed realtor, marketing, media, and communications professional. And I'm happy to announce that very soon I can add financial planner to the list. Now, Silk Undress International is a multi-digital platform interconnecting women globally with focus on personal, professional, and financial development. We're in our 13th year of curating content, experiences, and global storyboards. So I just want to welcome everyone today. Thank you for taking up your time as we're all socializing from a distance and getting a little bit of rest and being a little bit creative with our time. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to be talking about the coronavirus and its impact on the global economy. According to the Maryland Department of Health, COVID-19 is a disease caused by a respiratory virus first identified in Wuhan, Hubei province in China back in December of 2019. COVID-19 is a new virus that hasn't caused illness in humans before, but worldwide, COVID-19 has resulted in thousands of infections causing illnesses, and in some cases, even death, as we have seen. Some cases have spread to countries throughout the world, with more cases reported daily. Since then, the global impact and outcome of the virus has been differentiated by false realities, styles of leadership, preparedness, decisiveness, trust, empathy, health, and environmental changes. So once again, we're going to talk today a little bit about the COVID virus and the impact that it has on the global economy. Just give me one moment. Let's get something set up here. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Now we can't.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So without further ado, we're going to start with our first series of the topic, which is inequalities and preparedness from the head of state perspective. And joining us for the chat today is Her Excellency, Ameena Gurib-Fakim. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Madam President. How are you?
Nice to speak to you, Sissy. Thank you for
Wonderful.
having me.
I love saying Madam President. So Madam President has been a managing director of the Centre International de Development Pharmaceutical Research and Innovation, as well as professor of organic chemistry with the endowed chair at the University of Mauritius. She has served successfully as Dean of the Faculty of Science and Pro-Vice Chancellor. She has also worked at the Mauritius Research Council as Manager for Research. As a founding member of the Pan-African Association of African Medicinal Plants, she co-authored the first ever African herbal pharmaceutical. She has authored and co-edited 30 books, several book chapters, and scientific articles in the field of biodiversity, conservation, and sustainable development. And then on June 5th, 2015, she was sworn in as the 6th president and first female president of the Republic of Mauritius and served in that capacity until March 2018. She was later elevated to the Order of GCSK by the government of Mauritius and received the Legion of Honor from the government of France. In 2016, she was in the 4th list for the 100 most powerful women in the world, and first among the top 100 women in Africa Forbes list 2017, and 2019. She is honored as one of Foreign Policy's 2015 Global Thinkers, and I'm happy to announce that, Madam President, that you have been nominated for the Silver Dress International 25 Influential Women's List for 2020. And without further ado, Madam President, you have the floor. I'd just like to thank you. We're honored to have you join us for the inaugural COVID-19 series on the impact of global distances, inequalities, and preparedness from a head of state perspective. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Cici, and thank you again for your kind introduction. I will start again from the vantage point of the African continent, because we're increasingly talking about social distancing. And I would just like to point out something which is something that I think on the African continent, it is practically impossible in some regions to talk about social distancing. We're talking about poverty. We're talking in some places about absolute poverty. We are talking about people who are living in one room, cramped places, and where the facilities are not there. So talking about social distancing doesn't mean anything to these people. And social distancing also is, I think, a new terminology which has recently cropped up. And increasingly, we're going to see it being practiced across the world, because once the confinement period is over, I don't think we've seen the back of this virus. So social distancing will be with us for a long time. Now, when we come to talk about social distancing within a society, we are also referring to the preparedness of these communities. We talk about preparedness of the institutions when it comes to handling or even preparing for a pandemic. I mean, this one here was not prepared. People just, just knocked on our doors, and here we are. I think in terms of preparedness, I think this virus has really revealed the state of our institutions. Here, it has revealed the state of our institution, of the health institution in so many countries. But when it comes to Africa, we find that we have very, very weak health systems. We have very fragile states across the African continent. So we're going to see many people losing their lives purely because of lack of anticipation, lack of investment in that space. And I think during the conversation, we shall see why investment in our institutions, especially the health sector, because trust me, this is not the last we've seen of a pandemic. In the light of climate change, in the light of what we're going to be witnessing very soon, we haven't seen the last of pandemic. So I think it is increasingly, kind of telling heads of state, governments, institutions to really invest not just in our health system, but also in the human capital, because you can have infrastructure, but if we don't prepare the infrastructure of the mind, we're not going to get anywhere. And I think, unfortunately, some of the best doctors are in your country, Cici, and they're operating there. They have moved there because the infrastructure isn't there to retain them on the continent and to provide the much needed service that we need right now. I can't hear you, Cici.
Absolutely, I agree with you. In talking about the infrastructure and building human capital, what type of mechanisms can we put in place to ensure that we are working towards our global plan, which are the Sustainable Development Goals, and what type of implementations or strategies that we can put in place to kind of like interlock the member states and focusing on some of the development goals that come with some of the funding. And then how do we invest in human capital to make sure that we all have some kind of responsibility for preparedness? And particularly as you look at how the environment has responded to the absence of the human contribution to their environment.
If you look at the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, we find that each one of them, it's a system. It is not a goal per se. And to be able to deliver on these SDGs, we're going to have to rethink the way, the model of development as we have seen it. We have all gone out into full capitalism. We have, got we are reaping the reward of capitalism, but unfortunately, the harvest has not favored the 99%. And what we have seen is that increasingly, as technology advances, as societies develop, we find that technology, of course, that's another ball game altogether, where they're going to be replacing jobs unless governments are proactive and, of course, look at the opportunities for them to invest in these new spaces that will create jobs, of course, assuming that some of them will be lost and others will be created. But that kind of decision requires very nimble-footed and, of course, very agile decision-making processes, which very often are not there. Now, to come back to the issue of the investment in our institution, I'll just use my little country, Mauritius. In fact, a few years ago, we had the visit of Joe Stiglitz. And Joe Stiglitz, when he went back to New York, he wrote a very nice op-ed published, I think, in the New York Times. He said, I will tell you the story of this country that gives you free education, that gives you free healthcare, and this country is not super rich, and this country is not on the verge of bankruptcy. And this country, of course, he was describing Mauritius. Now, one of the, well, 2 or 3 decisions that we took immediately after independence have been provision of healthcare free of charge, provision eventually of education free of charge, and social safety net. And social safety net, be it very small, it was still enough for people to feel secure that if they lose a child, if they lose their husband, if they get to old age, they will receive a pension, they will not be on the street. So these are the things that we have thought were important. And of course, coupled to this, we also went into family planning because we've realized that we're a small country, hardly any resource at all. So we need to do something about this. Granted, right now we're also kind of, at the mercy of this aging population that we have now because of the decision taken then. So now we are going to reverse. Now, what I'm trying to point out is that capitalism works very well, but it needs to be shared. The profit and whatever comes out of it needs to be shared. And we need to ensure that these social safety nets are there for those who really need it. Now, why it matters now to have a social safety net, it's because as we move, because the gig economy has been loaded, there have been many plaudits about the gig economy and all the rest of it. But what I'm trying to push for now is that it is only when people feel secure in their job, in the system, that they will be able to take risk, calculated risk, knowing that they have something to fall back on. And I think this is again where some big countries, unfortunately, I think it's also in the US, where you have very threadbare social security system, where sometimes people get tied to their jobs because they will lose, for example, the health insurance. Right? So these are things that we have to be very, very careful. And I think this is where, if we are going to deliver on the SDGs, we need to start investing in our own people. And this has been my narrative throughout, and I will keep on saying it, because for far too long, countries which have emerged immediately after colonialism, and this is, of course, a story of Africa for 50 plus years, is that they have always assumed that the help will come from outside to look after their own people. It is not going to come from outside. We have to make the effort to share whatever we have, but providing healthcare, good healthcare, whatever means, providing a social safety net are critical if we are going to think about the infrastructure of the mind of our people, and more importantly, deliver on the SDGs.
Now, what are some of the most vital elements a leader must have, and what mechanisms of functional government operating from, I don't know. So, I mean, just look at some of the results that we've had, some of the best results that we had in dealing with the coronavirus and the crisis that we're all facing. The one thing they all have in common is that they're women. So what does gender have to do with it? If you look at, for example, in Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel, she took a direct and dire course of action to immediately start testing people. And she really encouraged her cabinet to take this coronavirus serious, like immediately from the start. You have New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. She also took clear action as well, with a very clear and decisive attack towards combating the virus. And although we saw Governor Cuomo on the forefront of the presentations in managing the crisis in New York, it was actually his secretary behind the scenes, New York Melissa DeRosa, the one that was actually leading the crisis and making sure that she keeps in contact with the hospitals and get an accountability that he can actually report effectively during his briefings. So, and basically what I'm saying is that why do it's proven gender intervention have better results? What does that say, and what do we need to do going forward to make sure that we have more women in position of power?
I think what you have said about Angela Merkel, I think she has another facet to her profession that we haven't touched on. She's also a scientist. And having a woman, I think, scientists provide you definitely with an edge. But I think what the countries that have won the coronavirus battle so far, you have rightly mentioned countries like New Zealand and all that, I think it has been very swift decision they have taken. And they have been able to actually cut across all the narrative, all the hubris that's been going around. They've taken very, very quick decisions. And they have taken it, and I think one thing that have defined the leadership of Ardern, for example, is the way she is so compassionate. And she actually, kind of take a decision with her heart in her hand, literally. And I think this is something which is, I think, to me, it is inherently lacking in male leadership. Male leadership, they tend to go very far vertical. Women, they tend to be adopt a much more pastoral way of doing things. They tend to unite everybody. They tend to bring on board the best. They tend to kind of be a mother. But being a mother is not a negative. For me, being a mother, of course, is a very strong positive, because we are the rock on which, we are the foundation on which the family builds, right? So I think this kind of leadership, where we have women who can listen, who are very fast at taking decision, informed decision, also because women tend to listen as well more. And that's a very, very important feature when you are a leader, is to be able to listen and to be able to actually learn from that mistake if you have people who are advising you correctly. So those who have won the battle for COVID, they have taken very swift decision. They have been very, very kind of a surgical approach to the problem. For example, Jacinda, she closed the frontier. She just went straight in, and Angela did the same thing. She went for tracing, testing, and she listened to the advice which were being given by the WHO. So we need this very much. And I think this is what has contrasted with many of the male leaders, that this has not been the case.
Awesome. So I want to pivot a little bit and talk about the financial and economic aspect of dealing with the coronavirus. We saw how the markets reacted to not only the leadership style or lack thereof here in the US and globally in some places, but it was a devastation on the markets. And joining us with this Zoom chat on COVID-19 is Shirley Luu. Dr. Luu is a highly successful financial advisor, active leader, trainer, and wealth guru, serving as an executive field chairman for First Financial Security. She has been in the financial services field for over 20 years, and as a speaker, author, trainer on financial literacy and education, Dr. Luu is also dedicated to informing, educating, and empowering individuals and business owners of the most powerful ways to prepare and save for retirement. Welcome, Dr. Luu. How are you?
Well, thank you for having me. Man, it's such an honor to meet you, President Ameena. It is an honor.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, Dr. Luu, let's talk a little bit about the economic impact the coronavirus of COVID-19 has had on our global economy, the reaction to the stock market, and what can we do in your perspective to prepare basically for the next pitfall?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I guess about 2 months ago, when it first broke out in China, and one of the things I was interviewed on TV, and they asked me that question. And at that point in time, the United States kind of like, no big deal, nothing, calm and control. What I said on TV was, I said, if it actually is what's happening in China, the United States is going to hear the biggest impact ever. You're going to start seeing company, corporation, events start canceling. And all these things. And of course, my the TV interviewer, he looked at me like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah." And
no one really anticipated the impact.
Yeah, no one really anticipated that. And I say, let me tell you, because if this thing hits, it's going to hit the ceiling, and you're going to start seeing the stock market tumble. Again, no one believed it in a way. Sure enough, a week or two later, guess what? Facebook announced a shutdown of all that conferences, and then the NBA, and then you got this, and then you got, of course, next thing you know, what happened, right? So now they tells me come back on TV again, right? They say, okay, now we've got this prices, stock market are falling. Financial advisors out there is telling people just hang on tight. What do you do with the money, right? And I looked at them, I said, are you crazy? I said, you're going to sit there. And here's what the typical answer is when the stock market loses money. Oh, just hang in there. It'll go back up. It's just a matter of time, right? What goes up, got to go down. Well, that's the first advice they give. Would you agree? The problem is that if you begin to lose too much of your money, you don't have enough money to gain back. You know that, right? In 2008, all those people lost those money, CC, never recuperated. The only reason within the last 10 years where the market really made money is all those new contributions as people put money back into the economy, into the stock, and it started to grow. But technically, if you go back, 2008, folks never gained back. Guess what? This time, it's going to be like a 2008 situation. People have already lost almost 30% of the portfolio. And a young lady yesterday was on one of my seminar call. She's 67 years old, lost $165,000.
Wow.
And I said to her, and the only thing you know what they told her to do? Just hang in there. Now, so I said to her, and I said, could you afford to lose another $165,000 within the next 30 days? She said, it's my money. I've been living off of it. So you got the loss coming. And I said, so what's the second suggestion they tell you? This is what everybody suggests. Oh, move into fixed, right? You have an account that you can put guaranteed fixed, 1% or 2% fixed. So they're taking the portfolio, putting the entire thing into a fixed situation where to try to keep it there until when the market stabilizes a little bit, to move it out there to invest back in the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
That's the second advice that you hear all the time. Mm-hmm. Well, got another problem there. You know what the problem there is? Yes, I do think if you don't have anywhere to move it, then you can put it in temporary fixed. But if the market does rebound, you don't have a crystal ball, and neither do I. How do you know when the market's going to get bounced back up so that your money can grow? That was the second problem. But there's a solution to both of those. And that's what I do. One of the things I try to educate folks is I said, okay, I'm kind of greedy. You're kind of greedy. We want to make money when the market makes. But at the same time, I don't want to lose money either when the market goes down. There's an education out there. There's a product called indexed where you can't lose. If the stock market makes money, you go with it. Market goes down, you lock down, there are no losses. These are the education that people are lacking of and are not being told and not being shared. And that's what I do. That's where I come in and taking this lady, no more losses from now on her account. She can sleep at night. And imagine this, you know how they've been giving her stream of income? They've been depleting her account by going and doing a withdrawal from her 401k and her IRA, her savings plan and all that. And I asked the next question. I said, well, why didn't they create a stream of income from that retirement account or that saving, whatever that you have money for life and you never run out?
All right.
Guess what? They're not doing that either. So you see, from the financial education standpoint, right now, I'm really concerned because I think the market will make more of a correction. And I think more of it's going to be lost than gain coming back. I really do, because they haven't seen the aftermath of this thing yet. Even when things go back to normal, let me tell you, things are going to be knocked back to normal what it is.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be devastation. I mean, I love shopping, you know that, buying clothes and everything else. But even after this hit, we're not going back to the, Facebook just announced that they're not going to have any social gathering as a company event until after 2021.
Wow.
Think about that. 2021. That means before a hotel, right? Airline, everything else, they were making money off of these events. But these huge companies, they're saying they're not doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
alone, we're supposed to have 2 major events that we literally take hundreds and hundreds of folks on dream destination and doing these kind of things. Guess what? Everything, literally everything.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, everything's been put on hold, So.
I mean, so it has been a global devastation on all of our markets. And I'm hoping that this is really a lesson learned for all of us that, preparedness is something that's extremely important. It takes one life event like this, and globally, we all find ourselves, grappling, trying to hang on by the threads with our health, our families, with the economies. There are companies that are going out of business. And we understand now, we can never really project the true effectiveness of leadership, right? Until they're faced with a crisis. And we have seen globally that there's different styles of leadership garnering different type of results. So therefore, we don't have a master plan in terms of how we all work together and sync in a cohesive manner to make sure that it's not this type of pandemic that can take us all by surprise.
Yeah.
And then you have people that are leaving it up to their own personal decision if they will act on behalf of their constituents or not. Not as if there's a master plan that is mandatory that you protect the people whom you govern. And so we have to do better. And I want to thank each one of you for coming on with me this morning for the Zoom chat and giving us your expertise in terms of where we are. And Madam President, I just want to know you've been really, really busy. That panel yesterday on WBAF business school panel was absolutely incredible. It was amazing. I had an opportunity to see it from a different set of lenses to give me a different perspective on not only the practical side of things, but also from policy intricacies, how leaders work differently across the board. So I just want to ask you, for you, Madam President, what's next? I mean, you're really busy. How's the book going? Are you doing tours? What's next?
I've given myself, I've kind of given myself this task of taking a girl by the hand, because you can only do that, making one change at a time. And if you can influence the life of a girl, empower her and give her that confidence. And so I'm going to spend a bit of my time doing that. And I think my story itself has made that girl in my village think that it's possible. It's possible to aim for the highest post of the land through sheer dint of hard work, and to be able to make it without going through the political, meanders of the world of politics. and to be able to dream big. And this can only be done when you provide her with a sound education, and that education empowers her, provides her with a self-confidence, and demystify science, because we need more women scientists in this world.
Absolutely. And I think that's why I'm really passionate about SDG 4, 5, and 16, 17, a lot of them, but those are the main ones, because I really believe that quality education and early intervention is really important, particularly for our girls. And we need some type of capacity building and a grassroots level type of mobilization to make sure that we can have that disseminated across the board and just continue to develop those natural talents and innate abilities that girls and women tend to have, so that we can have a more inclusive and equality-driven economies. And Dr. Luu, any closing remarks from you, Dr. Luu, on the economy and going forward and just making sure that we can have some type of economic sustainability?
Here's what I would suggest people do right now. It's a good time. It is the best time right now to take a look at your finances. One of the things is that the tendencies right now is that most people would go into their retirement account and start withdrawing it. It's natural. I need money. I'm unemployed. What am I going to do? But what they don't understand is that they have an opportunity right now, maybe look into different kind of products and services that can provide, instead of just doing a withdrawal, you get to set it up as a stream of income, if they qualify. And that way you never run out. So to me, right now, we've been so busy with that. And, I had prepared this almost 20 years ago. I knew someday something like this is going to happen. So all my clients are protected. It is still one of the most rewarding things right now that people are literally using the retirement stream of income from the account I've set up. They'll never run out. There are cases where, you got 22 million people lost life insurance. None of my clients lost it. As a matter of fact, they couldn't pay for it. We literally stopped all the payment from all the account, and the policy is still active.
Wow, great.
And if they needed money, we're able to tap into the account and give them that. There's so many different products that's been available out there, and that people just don't know it exists. And so what I try to encourage people to do is, do reach out. I'm Shirley Luu. They can always Google my main name, LUU, and they'll find me, CC. And then we can help them, because I think together we can at least protect their money right now and help them.
Okay, great. Thank you. Once again, this is the first of the COVID-19 series, Head of State Perspective. I mentioned that, Madam President, you have been nominated for Silk Undress International 25 Influential Women list. And Ms. Dr. Luu, you're actually among those 25 as well. Ladies are absolutely phenomenal. You both bring a certain je ne sais quoi, as you say, and particularly had a great impact in my life and those around you. So I want to encourage you to continue all the great work that you're doing, continue to make an indelible mark in your communities and your industry. Madam President, we need more STEM, so we have more women scientists. And Dr. Luu, we need more financial literacy, and I'll be soon right there with you. And ladies, I just want to thank you once again. Dr. Luu, you getting ready to say something?
I do. I want to invite Madam President, if you ever come to Virginia, you're welcome to stay at my place as my guest.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much. I'd love to do that.
Yes.
I do go to the US quite often, so now that it won't be there for a while, but
I'm in Virginia.
when I come out.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
in Virginia, Washington, D.C. area.
Yes.
Yeah, we were going to be together in New York, but that all came to end, right, Madam President? But next time.
Thank you so much. Thank
Okay,
you,
wonderful, ladies. Thank you once again for joining us on the Zoom chat, COVID. We're at multi-digital platforms. So right now we're streaming live on actually four platforms, simultaneously. I want to thank you once again. I'm CC Cole, founder, CEO of Silk Undress International, Lifestyle of the Lady CEO, International Professional Women's Media Forum. Thank you so very much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Take care. Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.